GLC is now offering a free audio stream of our 24/7 broadcast that we're calling GLC Radio, an online radio station that broadcasts our round-the-clock audio stream on a variety of platforms. GLC Radio gives you the ability to listen to GLC virtually anywhere, through your home or office computer, or on the go with a mobile device. You can access GLC Radio through our website or by searching for God's Learning Channel through iTunes Internet Radio, TuneInRadio.com, or on Shoutcast.com. Explore various GLC Radio-enabled mobile apps by visiting our website at glc.us.com/listen/GLC Radio. GLC Radio, your free connection to GLC anywhere, anytime.
Well, welcome to Friday's update.
Yay!
The
Yeah.
weekend update.
I can't figure out who in the studio, if it's me, if it's Fanita running teleprompter, or Danny behind the camera doing all the floor directing and running back and forth. Or maybe Corey in the audio.
Or Ryan.
Or Ryan. We're all ready to just go home and go to bed. It's Ryan. We heard him. It's Ryan.
He fessed up.
He has a soundproof room, but it ain't soundproof.
Not when he yells.
No.
He's a big boy. What are you, Ryan, like 6'8"? How tall is he? 6'6".
6'6".
That was close. You know, from my perspective, everybody's pretty tall.
Well, what's been going on this week?
Oh, my goodness. This has been the most incredible week. We've had some really tremendous guests in here. We've had Dr. Danny Bengigi and Rabbi Amnon Shor, who was with Danny. We ended up recording 3 hours for Light of the Southwest. So obviously that's going to have to spread out over a couple of nights. But yesterday I was able to host a man by the name of Ezra Robbins, who is with the Jewish National Fund. And I learned so much, and I was so excited about that. And you guys are going to love those programs.
Good.
I've already decided I'm not airing anything new on Monday night during football season. So there you are, because there's too many wives out there who have no control over their television.
But they could watch the next day at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, well, maybe they want to put their feet up and watch and eat popcorn. Most wives aren't sitting around eating bonbons. They eat their bonbons on the run like I do.
That's right.
So
That's right.
And
anyway.
How do we stand on our roundup?
It's coming right along. People are responding very well, and we are very grateful to you. Let's see. We still need a lot of help.
Yep.
We do.
Financially.
We need a lot of partners.
Yep.
Mason, I'm eating Tic Tac, sorry. Mason has been working on pulling the videos off from the nuggets from every night of Roundup. And see, he's having to watch practically every minute. Bless his heart. And he's leaving some of the music in there so that it separates the segments a little bit. He's done. And it's 6 discs. It's like 3 hours per disc.
Wow.
That is a lot of nuggets.
It is.
I'm like, really?
Well, there were an awful lot of nuggets.
This is what happens when you have so many great people coming in.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Anyway, so we'll have, actually, should have 3 new programs for you next week, but not on Monday.
What's our lineup this weekend?
Our lineup is really great. And, okay, so I'm going to tell you, if you missed Dr. Scott's brand new, the house call that we aired last night on Light of the Southwest, the all 4 segments, be sure and catch it during the repeats this weekend. And then call him and make an appointment to go get in the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Mom's already been in twice this week.
I have.
Dad goes every week. Now we know why. I was in there today.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, you know, we knew that it did a couple of things, but once we got done recording that program with him, we looked at each other and went, we're going.
Yep.
So
For
anyway, it can help fix all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You know, both him and another doctor said after I had my bypasses, and I lived past 5 years, because normally bypass people don't
Life
live
expectancy is 5 years.
5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's been 17, and it's due to that hyperbaric.
Wow.
Well, I'm sure that helped, but I
Yeah.
don't think you were doing
Not
hyperbaric for
solely.
17 years.
Only about
But you
10.
did immediately change how you ate, and
I
that
ate-
changed everything.
I
You
ate
know, when God says, don't eat
regulations.
this, there's a reason. He's not just trying to be cruel. At least he didn't say, oh, look, there's yummy chocolate. Don't eat it. Now, that would be bad. Okay, so here we go with the weekend lineup. Tonight at 8 o'clock, a 2-hour separate segment. First hour, Dr. Rebecca Thomas. The second hour, Rabbi Jeremy Gimpel, and that is the teaching that he did at Hayovel in February, his teaching on Ezra. This is your big chance to catch this one.
That's wonderful.
That is awesome. I know I'll be watching again this weekend.
And Dr. Rebecca is always awesome.
Yep.
She is. Then we have Dr. William McDonald. This one, I believe, was recorded in 2012. So this one is from the vault. Mom and Dad hosted this program. It'll be airing Saturday at 5, Sunday at 1, and Sunday at 8 p.m. And then we have 2 separate segments. Jean-Claude Chavam, that hour he introduces his book, Behold, God is My Salvation. And it really answers the question, have you actually been redeemed or are you on probation?
Yeah.
Because they can't be both. And the other one is the other hour, Steve Shermett. Both of those recorded at the very beginning of this year. That will be airing Sunday at 5 a.m., Monday afternoon at 2 p.m., and then the house call that I was just telling you about will be airing. Plenty of opportunities for you to see it this weekend. Saturday at 1 a.m., Saturday night, 8 p.m., Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m., and then when you need to just hear it again, Monday morning as you're getting ready to go back to work at 7 a.m. Okay, the good news is one more week, and the time changes so that we're not having to get up in the dark. That's great. But there's only one more week to qualify on the donations for Roundup to get that DVD set.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to get those donations in.
That's right.
And people have been responding to Dad's Defender Challenge to get things built.
Good.
The conversion done. So
Very good.
So we have gotten some funds for that, and we'll be getting some of those taken care of here pretty quick.
Yeah. You have a letter, Mr. Cooper.
Well, the letter goes to GLC. Enclosed, please find my monthly pledge of $30. I love you all, and I am so thankful for your stand for Israel. I really enjoy your program. In Jesus' name, Sandra in Cabot, Cabot, Arizona. I don't even know where that's at.
I don't know where Cabot is either.
But thank you, ma'am.
And I have a devotion by Francis Frangipane. It's called The Morning Star. The day of the Lord, like the dawning of any calendar day, does not burst forth abruptly. It's not pitch black at 5:59 a.m. and then suddenly bright morning the next minute. The night sky gradually recedes, retreating from the approaching rays of light. Even before the dawn breaks, the morning star faithfully heralds the coming day, announcing to the world, still in darkness, that light is at hand. Some may ask, well, doesn't the Bible warn that the day of the Lord would come as a thief in the night? Yes, but his coming as a thief is only to the backslidden and sinner. Paul says, but you, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day would overtake you like a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of day. We're not of night nor darkness. And he says that in 1 Thessalonians 5:4 and 5. Indeed, the scriptures use the image of the morning star to depict the church at the end of the age. This visual portrays well the reality that awaits us. Concerning the end times, Peter wrote, so we have the prophetic word made more sure, to which you will do well to pay attention as to a lamp shining in a dark place, until the day dawns and the morning star arises in your hearts. That's from 2 Peter 1:19. The ancients were fully aware that the morning star appeared while it was still night. The morning star, which is actually the planet Venus, is situated in our sky just above the eastern horizon. It's perfectly positioned to reflect the light of the coming day before sunrise. The light of the morning star is small but beautiful, and a preview of the coming day. Here, Peter is saying that before the day of the Lord breaks, the morning star shall rise in our hearts. We generate no light ourselves. It's only our position at the end of the age that enables us to reflect the day that's coming. All the glory belongs to Jesus. He himself, the bright and morning star, according to Revelation 22:16. This unveiling of Christ rising in his people, like the morning star before dawn, is perfectly consistent with Isaiah's word. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. Isaiah 60, verse 1. When will the glory rise? Just as the morning star rises while it's still night, so the glory of God shall rise within us when darkness shall cover the earth and deep darkness the peoples. And that's verse 2 of Isaiah. Are you ready for the manifestation of the Lord's glory? Are you preparing to be indwelt by the fullness of Christ? And that's an excerpt adapted from the book of Francis Frangipane, The Days of His Presence.
Wow.
That's very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's very good.
Interesting.
Because, you can really see a difference in the people who are going, wow, the Lord's coming, and I am doing everything that I can to get ready for that.
That's right.
As in internal preparations.
That's right.
And the ones who don't see it at all, and they're just like,
Don't have time for it.
let's go to the bar.
Yeah, don't have time for it.
Who cares? They have no clue.
They don't have a clue.
Okay, well, oh, wow. It looks like things still aren't calm over in Israel. This article
Imagine
comes from
that.
the ICEJ. Another stabbing attack against an IDF soldier took place Friday morning near the Guts Etzion security fence in the West Bank. The soldier was lightly wounded, and his attacker was shot and wounded, with both being evacuated to hospitals in Jerusalem. The attack comes as leaders of both the Palestinian Authority, linked with terror militia Zanim, and the Islamic terror militia Hamas, have declared that attacks will continue, and there's not much the Palestinian Authority, Israel, or anyone else can do to stop them. People aren't waiting for instructions from anyone when committing a terrorist attack, said Adnan Gaith, the head of the Fatah-affiliated Tanzim, adding that he blamed Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu for the situation.
Meanwhile, Hamas political leader Khalid Mashal told a rally in South Africa this week that the Jerusalem Intifada would continue until Palestinians achieve freedom and the land returns to Palestine and its people. He also told the rally, sponsored by the ruling African National Congress Party, that Hamas is opposed to ideological extremism, and denied that Hamas is a terrorist organization, but merely a political organization that believes in a struggle against the oppressors. You in South Africa have achieved your freedom, and the Palestinians are also aspiring to achieve their freedom, Mashal said. Don't expect them to stop their uprising. Don't expect them to stop the resistance.
Don't expect them to stop firing rockets.
In another article from the ICEJ, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest condemned Prime Minister Netanyahu during the daily press briefing on Thursday, calling his recent speech in which he implied that World War II-era Palestinian leader Haj Amni al-Husseini was directly responsible for prompting Adolf Hitler to exterminate the Jews of Europe, part of the inflammatory rhetoric causing the recent spike in terrorist attacks against Israelis. I'm pretty sure Netanyahu was just pointing out some history.
Yep.
The inflammatory rhetoric needs to stop, Ernest declared. The press conference came a few hours after Netanyahu met with Secretary of State John Kerry in Berlin for 4 hours, after which Kerry emerged declaring cautious optimism that the wave of terrorism against Israelis would soon wind down. Netanyahu also met Thursday with German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier and EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini to discuss the current situation.
And these news briefs from ICEJ. A Jewish man was mistaken for a terrorist and shot in Jerusalem. A Haredi, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish man, shouted, "I am ISIS," and tried to grab a nearby soldier's weapon at Jerusalem's Central Bus Station on Wednesday evening. The man, identified by police as Simcha Hodetov, 28, was shot dead by police. Police are looking into his background and why he behaved like this, police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld said. Many different questions are being asked.
Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak told Iranian Telecommunications Minister Mahmoud Vahezi during a visit to Tehran Thursday that his government is working toward opening a credit line of $5 billion to allow the Islamic Republic to finance joint infrastructure projects. Novak was in Tehran at the head of a delegation of 50 large Russian business concerns ready to invest in Iran, he said, adding that Iran is Russia's most important economic and trade partner.
Wow. Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, gave his inaugural speech to the UN Security Council on Thursday, imploring the assembled representatives of major powers to stop making excuses for the Palestinians and start holding them accountable. He added that the place where the status quo needs to change is here at the UN. The UN must end its usual practice of calling on both sides to show restraint and to state clearly that there is one side that is instigating a wave of terror. Only then, once the Palestinians see that distorting the truth and promoting violence will get them nowhere, will the reality on the ground change and the prospects for peace return.
The Egyptian army reported fierce clashes on Thursday with terrorists operating in the Sinai Peninsula to Israel's south. According to the reports, 20 suspected terrorists were killed and 12 others wounded in the fighting, which started when the army launched punitive raids on suspected terrorist positions in El Arish, Rafah, and Sheikh Zayed.
Israel's embassy in the Central American country of Guatemala has played an important role in providing aid to survivors of the community of Santa Catrina Peninsula on the outskirts of Guatemala City, which was recently hit by massive mudslides which killed dozens of people and displaced hundreds more. Meanwhile, Israel's government has announced the launching of a new category of innovation visas, which will allow startup entrepreneurs to set up operations in Israel for up to 2 years, taking advantage of the high-tech infrastructure and highly trained workforce to build new businesses. Those who obtain the 2-year visas will be able to develop new technological enterprises in Israel, and their visas will be extended if they decide to establish startup companies in Israel, according to the Economy Ministry. And while we're talking about victims, survivors of the mudslides, be praying for the people in Mexico and that hurricane, Category 5 hurricane.
The worst one.
In the Western Hemisphere since they've been recording.
Yeah.
So pray for them. They're in much danger of mudslides. And Texas is supposed to be hit by big rain.
And we've already had a lot of rain here.
Yeah.
So we've had flooding in this area. So, and we're supposed to be getting more.
I'm calling for 10 to 15 inches in some places in Texas. So.
But Texas is like a whole other country. So
it is.
I don't know where that's at, that they're calling for that.
I know.
I just pray it's not here. And you know what? I pray that everybody will be safe.
Not devastating.
Because we've had a lot of flooding in Texas this year, you know? So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, another article looks like from the ICEJ. The 19 Jewish members of the U.S. House of Representatives issued a statement Wednesday denouncing the measure passed by a vote earlier in the day at the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, that would be UNESCO, Executive Board, to condemn Israel and designate Rachel's tomb and the Cave of the Patriarchs as Muslim holy sites. The continued false allegations against Israel as having violated the status quo at the Temple Mount, which is under the custodianship of Jordan and the Waqf Muslim Religious Trust, and blaming Israel for the surge in violent attacks, must be condemned, said the statement. Such accusations have been perpetrated by the Palestinian leadership to incite continued violence, and the resulting attacks targeting Israeli citizens in recent weeks are an outrage. There is zero justification for such acts of terrorism, and the world cannot remain silent and certainly must not take actions that could add to the false and inflammatory incitement of violence.
As Jewish members of the U.S. House of Representatives, we believe strongly in respecting the religious history and protecting the religious freedoms of Muslims, Jews, and Christians, the statement continued. That means respecting the claims of both Jews and Muslims to holy sites, which have significance for both religions. Designating Rachel's tomb and the tomb of the patriarchs as exclusively Muslim is dismissive of other religious traditions, and the continued refusal to show any respect or recognition for the legitimacy of Jewish existence in the ancient Jewish homeland once again demonstrates a central obstacle to peace between Israelis and Palestinians.
In related news, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon spoke with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas Wednesday evening in Ramallah, with the PA issuing a statement that daily killings and incitement against President Mahmoud Abbas would lead to a big explosion. Abbas himself called for international forces to protect Palestinians from assaults by the occupation army and settler terrorism, adding the Palestinians have lost the ability to defend themselves against the settlers and the army, and that Israeli actions risk sparking a bitter religious conflict that we don't want.
Okay. Bonn replied that the UN would continue to support all efforts to create the conditions to make meaningful negotiations possible between Israel and the Palestinians. But ultimately, he added, it is for the Palestinians and Israelis to choose peace. Our most urgent challenge is to stop the current wave of violence and avoid any further loss of life. He then proceeded to reiterate much of the formulaic rhetoric about the so-called two-state solution that he and his predecessors at the UN have been repeating for decades.
So did they or did they not declare that Rachel's tomb and the Cave of the Patriarchs are Muslim holy sites?
I'm not sure.
Or is that still up for a vote?
I'm not
Which
sure.
is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm
sorry. Who was Rachel? Jacob's wife?
Yes. And what's the
tomb of the patriarchs? That would be
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And their wives.
And their wives, that's right. Okay. And now from the AFP in Nairobi. Over 30,000 people in South Sudan's war zone regions face death by starvation, the United Nations said Thursday, warning that tens of thousands more are on the brink of famine. While an official famine has not been declared, the report describes the worst conditions yet seen in a 22-month civil war marked by atrocities and accusations of war crimes, including the blockading of food supplies.
At least 30,000 people are living in extreme conditions and are facing starvation and death, the UN's Food and Agriculture Association, the FAO, the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, and the World Food Program, the WFP, said in a joint statement. Those worst affected are in the northern battleground state of Unity, once the country's key oil-producing region, but now a scene of some of the heaviest fighting, including the mass abduction and rape of women and children. Some 3.9 million people are in crisis, a third of the country's population, a massive 80% rise compared to the same period last year, the UN said.
Famine is a technical measure assessed by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, which classifies hunger on a scale of 1 to 5. While large parts of South Sudan's Unity and Upper Nile regions were already classified as being just one step short of famine, termed emergency or phase 4, areas in Unity have been declared to be in phase 5 for the first time, with 860,000 people in those extreme conditions. Level 5 is classified as catastrophe, and when stretched to 20% of the population, it becomes famine.
Since the war in South Sudan started nearly 2 years ago, It's the first time that an IPC analysis has found any parts of the population in Phase 5 catastrophe, the UN added. Conditions on the ground for affected individual households are therefore already effectively in famine conditions. While poor rains have impacted harvest in some areas, the worst conditions are the war zone areas, with the extreme conditions sparked by conflict, not climate.
Hardest hit are the counties of Lair, Gut, Koch, and Mayandit, areas where aid agencies have been forced to pull out in recent months due to intense fighting. Both sides are accused of having perpetrated ethnic massacres, recruited and killed children, and carried out widespread rape, torture, and forced displacement of populations to cleanse areas of their opponents.
Since fighting broke out nearly 2 years ago, children have been plagued by conflict, disease, fear, and hunger, UNICEF chief in South Sudan, Jonathan Vetch, said. Their families have been extraordinary in trying to sustain them, but have now exhausted all coping mechanisms. Agencies can support, but only if we have unrestricted access. If we do not, many children may die. Tens of thousands of civilians have been killed from fighting, and the country's economy has been destroyed, with soaring inflation causing sharp spikes in food prices. A year ago, famine was averted only after a huge intervention by aid agencies.
Civil war began in December 2013 when President Salva Kiir accused his former deputy, Riek Machar, of planning a coup, setting off a cycle of retaliatory killings across the country that has split the poverty-stricken, landlocked country along ethnic lines. The army and rebels have repeatedly traded blame, accusing each other of breaking an internationally brokered August 26 ceasefire, the eighth such agreement. Aid agencies, including Oxfam, warned Thursday of appalling conditions and unbearable suffering in Unity State, while World Vision said there were alarmingly low harvests elsewhere in the country.
And what was Michelle saying about the? They had won their freedom there, and
No,
Palestinians
he was talking about
were,
South Africa and apartheid. He's not talking about South Sudan. Because that's one of the things that the Palestinians are trying to do is claim that it's apartheid. Well, you know what?
not.
Go to Israel yourself and see for yourself how the Jewish people integrate the Arab people into their communities. You know, that's one of the things that we were bringing to your attention with a video from Duran Kadar.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about it's not just the people in the West Bank that are stabbing the settlers, which is what they call any Israelis living in this part of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
But Duran was clear to point out that these people that are perpetrating the stabbings that are going on across Israel, hey, these are the Arabs that they will typically have in their homes doing things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you hire somebody to come to your house and fix your plumbing or whatever. That's who's doing it, is these people.
Ordinary people.
And they're doing it because of the incitement by their leaders.
That's right. Absolutely.
So it's far, 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 far from apartheid
it is.
in Israel.
I saw a wonderful YouTube video of an Arab young man that lives in Nazareth. He said, I am proud to be an Arab, but I am proud to be an Israeli. He said, we have a democracy. We are treated fairly. And he just raved about life in Israel.
Wonder if he's dead by now.
You know, I am not being political here, but I picked up a book that Ben Carson has just released because I don't know a whole lot about the Constitution. And I've started reading this book, and I've got to recommend that everybody run out and get this book. It's called A More Perfect Union. And you will learn so much about our Constitution. It's incredible because that's all it's about. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Shabbat Shalom.